Good evening, everyone. Tonight we're diving into one of the most bizarre and enduring mysteries in television history, the Max Headroom Incident. On November 22nd, 1987, someone hijacked not one but two Chicago television stations, broadcasting a strange, masked figure to thousands of homes. Nearly 4 decades later, we still don't know who did it or why. Let's unravel this story together. Here's our roadmap for tonight. We'll start with the events of that November night, exactly what happened and what viewers saw on their screens. Then we'll examine the technical side. How does someone actually hijack a television broadcast signal in the analog era? After that, we'll look at the FBI and FCC investigation, why it yielded nothing, and why this case remains stubbornly unsolved. Finally, we'll explore the cultural legacy, why the Max Headroom incident still fascinates us almost 40 years later. Let's set the scene. Chicago, 1987. It's a Sunday night, and families are gathered around their television sets. On WGN, viewers are watching the evening sportscast. On WTTW, the PBS affiliate, Doctor Who fans have just settled in for a rerun of the episode Horror at Fang Rock. Nobody had any idea that in just a few moments, their screens would be taken over by something deeply strange. This is the night of November 22nd. Here's exactly what happened. At approximately 9:14 p.m., WGN-TV's signal was briefly hijacked for about 25 seconds during the sportscast. Viewers saw a person in a Max Headroom mask bobbing against a homemade background, but the audio was mostly garbled. Then, about 2 hours later at roughly 11:15 p.m., it happened again. This time, the target was WTW, Chicago's PBS station, and the intrusion lasted a full 90 seconds. Right in the middle of a Doctor Who episode. Same masked figure, same bizarre setup. 2 major stations, one night, 3 hours apart. Let's walk through the timeline. At around 9:14 p.m., the first intrusion hits WGN. It's brief, only 25 seconds, and station engineers quickly manage to restore the signal. But then at 11:15 p.m., the second and far longer intrusion strikes WTTW. This time, the hijacker has a full 90 seconds before the signal is cut, and the content is even stranger. Within hours, viewers who had been recording Doctor Who on their VCRs realize they've captured something remarkable on tape. The FCC and FBI launch an investigation within weeks. And here we are in 2026, 38 years later. The case remains completely unsolved. So now we turn to the mystery at the heart of this story. Who did this, and why haven't they been caught after nearly 4 decades? The FBI and the FCC both investigated. This was treated as a serious federal offense. Laws were literally being changed in the 1980s to make broadcast signal intrusions a felony, partly due to growing concerns about terrorism and extremism. Yet despite the seriousness of the crime and the resources deployed, the investigation hit a wall almost immediately. And that is where we still stand today. Here's what makes this case so technically impressive and so unsettling. The hijackers didn't break into a television studio. They overrode the microwave relay signals that fed the station's broadcast transmitters. Now, this is not something a casual prankster could pull off. You needed powerful transmission equipment, precise line of sight to the transmitters, and serious broadcast engineering knowledge. Investigators believe the perpetrators were likely positioned near one of Chicago's tallest buildings, the John Hancock Center or the Sears Tower. And here's the crucial operational detail. WTTW's engineers were off-site that Sunday night, which is exactly why they couldn't stop the intrusion. The FCC later changed its regulations to mandate 24/7 engineering presence at broadcast stations specifically because of this incident. So what did the investigation actually find? Essentially nothing. The FBI and FCC combed through every piece of evidence and came up completely empty. No fingerprints were ever found on any equipment because no equipment was ever recovered. No witnesses came forward, despite the fact that investigators believe at least 3 people were involved. The technical sophistication pointed strongly toward an inside job, someone with professional broadcast engineering experience, but no suspect was ever identified. And here's the final twist. The statute of limitations has long since expired. Even if someone stepped forward tomorrow and confessed, they could not be prosecuted. It is officially, permanently, a cold case. Let's put the key figures in perspective. The WGN intrusion lasted just 25 seconds, barely enough time for viewers to register that something was wrong. The WTTW intrusion was far more substantial, 90 full seconds of bizarre, rambling content captured on home VCRs by Doctor Who fans. 2 major television stations were targeted in a single night, an unprecedented and unrepeated feat in American broadcasting. And 38 years later, the case remains completely unsolved. These 4 numbers tell the story of the audacity, the strangeness, and the enduring mystery of what happened. I want to close the story portion of our presentation with a quote from Gary Zielinski, a Doctor Who fan who was watching WTTW that night and witnessed the intrusion firsthand. He said, "As it went on, it got stranger and stranger." And he's exactly right. The intrusion started strange and only got weirder, culminating in the now infamous moment where the masked imposter dropped his pants and exposed his bare bottom to an accomplice who then spanked him with a fly swatter. It was absurd, unsettling, and completely inexplicable. And that precise combination of the familiar and the deeply strange is exactly why this incident has lodged itself so firmly in our cultural memory. So why does the Max Headroom incident still matter, nearly 4 decades later? First, it remains one of the very few successful broadcast signal intrusions in American television history, a genuine anomaly that has never been replicated at this scale. Second, the content itself was so strange and random that it feels like a glitch in the fabric of reality, a moment where the comforting familiarity of television was suddenly and inexplicably violated. Today, the incident lives on through Reddit communities that continue to analyze every frame, through YouTube documentaries racking up millions of views, and through podcasts that revisit the mystery. But ultimately, the Max Headroom incident reminds us of something fundamental and slightly unnerving. In the analog world, the signal could be stolen by someone with the right equipment and the right knowledge. The person behind that Max Headroom mask, they're still out there somewhere, and we may never know who they were.